Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about House of the Dragon, or Hot D, with a focus on King Viserys the First, explaining why he does not have a dragon despite being king and despite there being several dragons available for him to mount. Dragons weren't exactly plentiful during this time period, but they definitely weren't short in numbers either. They are not the easiest to hatch and they require several steps in order to do so, as they are indeed magical creatures. It was said that magic left the world when the last dragon died. Anyway, you may notice that Rhaenyra had a dragon in the first episode named Syrax, with her father noting that he can smell the creature on her garments. Daemon Targaryen flew on the immensely powerful caraxes, with whom he bonded strongly. At the height of King Viserys' reign, there were over 20 dragons alive. So the king's daughter and his brother both mounted dragons themselves, but the king did not. Viserys wasn't the most active king, ruling was not something he enjoyed, and I'm not surprised that he did not currently have a dragon, but that is not to say he never had a dragon. In the year 93 AC, Viserys decided he wanted to become a dragon rider, as to follow in the Targaryen tradition. He entered the dragon pit where he approached the heavily guarded Balerion. It's my guess he chose Balerion due to the dragon's importance to the family and the historical role that the dragon played during the conquest of Westeros. I mean, this dragon seen it all. An additional reason is most likely due to the fact that Balerion was the largest dragon to ever be seen. At this point, Balerion was close to 200 years old and his greatest days were definitely behind him. Viserys was urged not to claim Balerion, as he had lacked the strength needed to lift his massive body off the ground. Although bending to the then prince's will, he struggled greatly, and there was a recorded total of 3 flights around King's Landing before Viserys realised that Balerion's flying days were definitely over. Despite the setback with Balerion, the dragon and prince still bonded. Balerion died a year later in 94 AC, the largest dragon to ever be seen in Westeros. Viserys chose not to bond with another dragon after that. Some believed that Balerion's death pained him to the point that he could not bring himself to create another bond. Let's not forget that dragons are magical creatures. It is they who choose the bond. They can just as easily reject the bond, like Balerion may have done with a certain Targaryen that I'll mention shortly. This dragon will be the dragon that remains in the minds of those who pass down the knowledge of Targaryen history. As I said, Balerion had seen it all and been in countless battles. I personally don't believe Viserys had any intention of having Balerion as his long-term mount. He knew the dragon was severely weakened. He knew the dragon was on the way out, you could say. It may have been possible that he just wanted his name to go down in history as the last known rider of Balerion himself. Many Targaryens cared more about the legacy they would cement and leave behind, rather than actually having a concern or consideration on the means in which they would achieve it. Viserys may have not taken another dragon because he seen no need for one. Dragons were used to defend the kingdom, or win a kingdom, you could say, in Aegon's case. He had taken over the reins from a man, Jaehaerys the First, who had seen the greatest period of peace and prosperity embrace the realm since Aegon the Conqueror himself first conquered the continent. There was no need for such beasts other than to ride them for leisure. The dragon spent more and more time remaining grounded, which is most likely why the dragon pit was initially built. It also wasn't the easiest thing to do either, learning to ride a dragon. The king had other pressing concerns like providing an heir, which he was struggling to do, and I honestly believe that flying a dragon was the last thing on his mind. In a way, he lost touch with who the Targaryens really were, something his brother Daemon was all too keen to remind him of. Then, on the other hand, there were claims that he didn't take to riding very well. As I've mentioned, he commented more than once on the odour from his daughter Rhaenyra after she would return from a dragon ride. I'm going to take this time now to highlight some of the key points in Balerion Balerion's life, his riders, and a story or two about him. So let's continue. Balerion had quite an eventful life, being ridden by some of the most notable Targaryens to ever exist. Despite being used by Aegon the Conqueror to dominate Westeros, the dragon was actually brought to Dragonstone by Aegon's grandfather Aenar after he packed up and abandoned Valyria. Balerion was also integral in creating the Iron Throne, aiding the workers to melt the blades in order for them to be shaped accordingly. Aegon had bonded with Balerion for the entirety of his life before his son Maegor the Cruel mounted the dragon after his father's death. Maegor used Balerion to quash the rebellion of the Faith Militant before the dragon returns to Dragonstone by its own accord following Maegor's death. So, a story that I really enjoy and find incredibly interesting is the one of Balerion and Princess Aeria Targaryen. The princess claimed Balerion from the yard of Dragonstone one morning in 54 AC. They disappeared and went missing for more than a year. King Viserys Targaryen The First sent expeditions to try and locate Balerion and the young princess, with even the Master of Coin, Rhaego Draz, offering a reward for any information on the whereabouts, but none came forward that were actually credible. Balerion was the largest living dragon in the world, but there were absolutely no sightings of the dragon anywhere. Septon Barth believed that the lack of sightings suggested that Balerion was no longer in Westeros entirely. Rhaenyra Targaryen departed on her own dragon Dreamfire to search for Balerion and her missing daughter, but was ultimately unsuccessful. It wasn't until 56 AC that Balerion finally returned to King's Landing, descending into the courtyard of the Red Keep with Aeria barely clinging to him. The princess was severely ill and died soon after. Accounts of her death were pretty horrific. It was said that she was literally cooking from the inside out. Her skin was burning to a crisp, her organs were burning her inside out, and it appeared that there was some kind of parasitic being or form that was trying to escape her body. She died in complete agony, and it asks the question, where did Balerion take her that seen her endure such awful injuries? Then there's the dragon itself, who was also hurt. Bart's accounts describe wounds and half-healed scars on Balerion. The dragon bore a huge, jagged rent down his left side, almost 9 feet long, and fresh blood still dripped from the wound, hot and smoking. Barth speculated that when Aeria climbed Balerion, she was unable to bend the dragon to her will, and instead the dragon had taken her to the place that he had been born, Valyria, a feared, cursed place since the Doom. Shortly thereafter, Balerion became the first dragon to be housed in the Dragon Pit, where he was guarded by the Dragon Keepers. Anyway guys, with that being said, that is my video on why King Viserys the First no longer had a dragon and what actually happened to it, which was indeed Balerion. Thanks for watching, I really hope you enjoyed Hot D, and look out for the next video. I'll see you soon.